Hi everyone. So this short video just gives a brief overview of the 4 conditionals that we use in English. Let's have a look at this table. So as you can see, this table has a number of columns. The first column will give you the name of the conditional, then the form, what it looks like, the time, whether we use the conditional in the present, the future or the past, the function of each conditional, and then some examples. So if we have a look at the first one, we're looking at the zero conditional. Now the zero conditional is used to talk about things that are always true. Let's have a look at the form. So if we want to create this conditional, we use if plus present tense, comma, and then present tense. We use this zero conditional in the present time, and we use it when we want to talk about general truths, habits, or scientific facts. So, for example, if you freeze water, it turns to ice. If you freeze water, it turns to ice. So this is something that happens every time. It's always true. Given this condition, this will be the result. So we've got if plus present tense, freeze, if you freeze water, comma, and then present tense. It turns to ice. Another time that we use this particular conditional, zero conditional, is when we want to show an outcome that happens if a specific repeated action is met. To show an outcome that happens if a specific repeated action is met. So in this example, if I eat prawns, I get sick. If I eat prawns, I get sick. So this happens every single time. So again, we've got if plus present tense, eat prawns, comma, plus present tense, get sick. Let's have a look at the first conditional now. So with the first conditional, we have if plus present tense, comma, will or won't, plus base verb. And we use this conditional to talk about things in the present and the future. We use it when we want to talk about things that might happen in the future or things that are possible. To talk about things that might happen in the future or things that are possible. So it's a real conditional. Here are some examples. If it rains, we won't go out. If it rains, we won't go out. So there's a real possibility that it will rain, and if that's the case, we won't go out. So if we have a look at the form, we've got if plus present tense, if it rains, comma, we won't go out. Will or won't plus base verb. Another example, if I pass my exam, I'll be very happy. If I pass my exam, I'll be very happy. So again, this is something that is possible. It is possible that I'll pass my exam, and if I do, I'll be very happy. So we have if plus present simple, if I pass my exam, comma, will, I'll be very happy. Another example, if I feel better, I'll go to the party. If I feel better, I'll go to the party. Just note that if we want to give a negative condition, we use the word unless instead of saying if not. So for example, unless I feel better, I won't go to the party. Unless I feel better, I won't go to the party. So instead of saying, if I don't feel better, I won't go to the party, we can simply say, unless I feel better, I won't go to the party. And it's exactly the same meaning. Let's have a look now at the second conditional. Now the second conditional is one of the hypothetical or unreal conditionals. We use this to talk about things that are either unlikely, imaginary, or impossible in the future. So let's have a look at the form. We have if plus past tense, comma, plus would or wouldn't, plus base verb. And we use this conditional to talk about things in the present and the future. So like I said, we use this one when we want to talk about things that are imaginary, impossible, or unlikely in the future. If we have a look at the example on the right, if he were taller, comma, he would join the basketball team. If he were taller, he would join the basketball team. So this is obviously something that is impossible. He's not taller. So it's not real, it's an imaginary situation. And you can see that we have if, and then the verb is in the past tense, were taller. And remember that with the be verb in the conditional tenses, we use were for all subjects, not was. So he, she, they, we, I, all subjects are followed by were instead of was for the second conditional. If he were taller, he would join the basketball team. There you've got would plus base verb. Here's another example. If I won the lottery, I would buy an electric car. If I won the lottery, I would buy an electric car. Now this example is one that is unlikely. I mean, it is possible to win the lottery, but it is very unlikely. So we use a second conditional here. And again, we've got if plus past tense, won, the lottery, comma, would plus base verb, would buy an electric car. The other thing to note about second conditional is that in English we often use this conditional to give advice. So if you look at this final example, if I were you, I'd get the COVID vaccine as soon as possible. If I were you, I'd get the COVID vaccine as soon as possible. So this is giving advice. So instead of saying you should do this, you can say if I were you, I would do something. Again, you can see that we've got the be verb is were, if I were you. I'd is short for I would get the COVID vaccine. So that you can see how it is used to give advice. Let's now focus on the third conditional. Now just note that the third conditional is the only conditional that we use to refer to things in the past. 0, first and second we use to talk about the present and future, but the third conditional, we only use this one to talk about the past. So if we look at the form, we have if plus had or hadn't plus past participle, comma, would or wouldn't plus have plus past participle. We use this conditional to talk about things that didn't happen in the past and their imaginary results. And we often use this third conditional to express regrets that we have about the past. So if we look at this example on the right, if I had studied harder at school, I would have got into university. If I had studied harder at school, I would have got into university. So I didn't study hard at school and I didn't get into university, but if I had studied harder, I would have. So again, it's something that didn't happen. We can't change it. It's impossible. It's imaginary. And it's a way of expressing that using the conditional. We have if plus had plus past participle, comma, I would have plus past participle got into university. Let's have a look at the second example. If I had known he was an unreliable person, I wouldn't have lent him money. If I had known he was an unreliable person, I wouldn't have lent him money. So I didn't know that and I did lend him money, so it's kind of like a regret. If I had known, I wouldn't have lent him money. So again, we've got if plus had known, so had plus past participle or past perfect, comma, would or wouldn't have plus past participle lent. So that's it for this short lesson on the overview of the 4 conditionals. I hope it has been helpful.